Hi there, I'm Matt Donnelly of RotoBaller, and you know what time it is? It is time to talk about starts and sits because we are officially in week number 1 of the 2023 NFL and fantasy football season, and we have to start with the quarterback position. Now, we all know which quarterbacks we're starting. If you've got any of the big 8, and that's Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence, you're starting these guys with confidence. But who can you start if you don't have any of those guys? How about Jared Goff on Thursday Night Football taking on the Kansas City Chiefs? Now we know how explosive this Lions offense can be. They scored the 5th most points just a season ago, and Jared Goff, he has added weapons to his arsenal that includes Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta. Meanwhile, and here's the key here, on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs are likely going to be missing a key piece of that interior defensive line, and that is All-Pro Chris Jones. Now Jared Goff starting on the road, now that's pretty bold, but I'm telling you what, right now he's going to feel like he's at home with no interior pass pressure coming from this Chiefs defensive line. Number 2, Russell Wilson versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, we are going bold here, starting Russell Wilson in week number 1, but the Raiders, they allowed 17 fantasy points per game against the quarterback position just a season ago. And last season, Wilson arguably had his 2 best games coming against the Raiders. A 2-touchdown performance in week number 4 and a 24 for 31 performance in week number 11. Jordan Love is another quarterback that I feel confident in starting against the Chicago Bears. Now the Bears, they allowed nearly 18 fantasy points per game last season, and while they made some additions on the defensive side of the ball, that was more or less trying to focus on stopping the run. Now Aaron Rodgers said nobody plays Jordan Love like Jordan Love, so he's going to be fine. This is the same dude that averaged like 9.3 yards per attempt last season, and he has Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Luke Musgrave at his disposal, and those dudes, they can flat out fly. Now quarterbacks that you're sitting, it starts with Deshaun Watson versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Watson, he has not looked good at any point of his career with the Cleveland Browns. We're talking about last season, we're talking about this season. He seems lost in that Kevin Stefanski type offense. And the Bengals, perhaps they have lost some of their defense there on the back end, but this was still the second stingiest team against quarterbacks in fantasy back in 2022. Also, quite frankly, I just don't like the dude. Now, number 2, Daniel Jones versus the Dallas Cowboys. Vanilla Vic in 2 games against the Cowboys, he was not about that life. We're averaging 212 yards per game through the air. Now, we did have a 79-yard rushing performance in that first contest, but we're talking about 1 touchdown, 1 interception in 2 games while being sacked 8 different times. Dallas allowed just 12.18 fantasy points per game to opposing signal caller in that 2022 season. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. He came out of the dark, but now he's heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Now, Rodgers and Wilson is going to be a connection that's going to feel a lot like Rodgers and Devontae Adams did in Green Bay, just not this week. Buffalo allowed the 7th fewest points to quarterbacks last season on a per-game basis, and that is while missing a good portion of that secondary. The band, they're all back together in week number 1, so tread softly when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. Fun fact, last season, 11 teams did not play their starting quarterback in the preseason. They won a combined 3-8. This season, 8 teams repeated that feat. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson, the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, the Bengals and Joe Burrow, the Chargers and Justin Herbert, the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, the Lions and Jared Goff, the Rams with Matthew Stafford, and the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. Use that information any way you seem fit, preferably as it fits your narrative. With that all being said, here are the starts and sits at the quarterback position for week number 1. Start Jared Goff against the Chiefs team that allowed 17 fantasy points per game a season ago, and they don't have Chris Jones. Number 2, Russell Wilson faces a Raiders team that allowed the 5th most fantasy points to the position, and with Sean Payton calling plays, Russ, he can start looking to cook once again. Now, Jordan Love is another start against the Bears team, apparently looking for a new owner now that Rodgers is in New York. Chicago addressed the run defense, not so much the pass defense. And here are the quarterbacks that you need to sit. You're sitting Deshaun Watson. He has not looked right until he puts up a couple of good games. I'm fading him. Daniel Jones, meet Micah Parsons. Jones struggled last season against the Cowboys, and I don't think that Darren Waller is there to help against the pass rush. Number 3, you're sitting Aaron Rodgers, who faces a Bills team that doesn't have a Von Miller. That's the good news. They do, however, have Tre'Davious White, Dane Jackson, Jordan Poyer, and Micah Hyde back. That's bad. What's not bad is the RotoBaller YouTube channel, so be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you are tuned in for plenty more fantasy football analysis.